FC Dallas's newest head coach, Eric Quill, has made his long-awaited return to DFW. We sat down for an exclusive one-on-one interview with the 9th head coach in FC Dallas history. I just want to start with the month of November for you. When you got the call letting you know that you had gotten your dream job, it's in the middle of a playoff run for a team that's having a historic season on its own. Can you just walk me through that phone call and the emotions that followed?
Yeah, I mean, with every day after you interview, you're kind of, you're walking around eggshells and nervous, and with every day you don't get a call, you start to wrap your head around the possibility you might not have gotten the job. So my mind was going every which way for days, and we'd just been eliminated from the playoffs in New Mexico. So it was a downer, and then to get that call was a complete boost to just everything in my life. And it was a shock. I was shocked, even though I knew I was a final candidate and had time to, kind of wrap my head around the fact that I could get the job. I was still in shock when the phone call from Clark came, and just all of this emotion started, running through my body. And my wife and I just, we're both Texas people. We're from Texas, born in Texas. So to get a chance to come back home was just amazing, and we had tears of joy. Gave my wife a big embrace, and just told the kids what was going on, and they were excited. So just we've put our we've traveled to the U.S. the last 3 years, and my kids have been in 5 elementary schools in 3 years, and I'm hoping that Dallas this chapter lasts a little longer.
Working in sports, I think a lot of us have dreams, big dreams, and dreams that are pretty, not everyone gets to fulfill them. How does it feel to actually get to achieve the one dream you've always had?
It's amazing. I feel truly blessed. And sometimes you ask, why was I chosen, and I've put my head down and worked to try to just make organizations better. And that's what has ultimately led me here, is just doing things, the right way, and treating people the right way, and coaching the right way, and making people better. And to get this opportunity that I have, just envisioned for a long, long time is surreal, and I just feel truly lucky and blessed.
Being more familiar with the development side of soccer really in this country. Everyone who's working either on an academy club or a second team club has aspirations to get to the first team. When you were the head coach for North Texas SC back in 2019 during that stretch, what was your goal?
Just to develop players for the first team with Lucci. Lucci was head coach, and to develop players that were ready to play in the first team. That's the goal of a second team coach, is to all of our top talent projections, to cultivate those talents and make sure that they're improving at a rapid rate, because we have expectations on these guys, and expectations on me as a coach is to deliver those players and make them ready to step in the game, in the stadium, and play and be successful. So that's really what it was. And obviously we want to win in the second team, and we had a great year in 2019 where we won it all and kind of ran away with the league. But if you look at the talents in that team of Tanner Tessman and Brian Reynolds and Ricardo Pepi, and it was a star-studded group that I just loved every minute getting to coach, because I was a fan of those guys, and to train every day was truly a joy.
And then what went into the decision to leave?
Dan Hunt's a mentor of mine, and we talked weekly about my career projection and where's my pathways leading, and I felt like MLS experience was going to be my next challenge and need to keep growing myself. And so when I didn't get the head coaching job 3 years ago and Nico got it, I knew that I needed to kind of spread my wings and get out and see the world of soccer somewhere else. And just so happened, like the day that I was told that I didn't get the job, I get an opportunity in Columbus that, to go work for a guy that's won 2 MLS Cups. I felt like it was a door was closing, but a door was opening, on the other side. And it was exactly what I needed to go and learn a new style of new style of management, a new culture inside the walls of the organization, a new game model, and just kind of absorb life outside of Dallas and what I knew to be, because this was my first head coaching job was North Texas, so I hadn't really spread my wings in the professional arena yet. And so that allowed me to really kind of grow a lot, more so than I probably knew, until I went to New Mexico and I got to sort of apply everything that I kind of took on in my time here and my time in Columbus and apply what I kind of learned. And it just happened to put together a roster that we were close. We were knocking on the door, and ultimately failed to reach the pinnacle and do what I set out to achieve. But we were close, and I felt truly like I had made an organization better in a year and a half, which was gratifying. And now I get this opportunity to kind of do the same thing here in Dallas.
When you think about the clubs in MLS that are really good at developing talent from the time they're this big, the ones that come to mind for me are, Union, Crew, FC Dallas. So to be in Columbus, where it is like a factory there. I mean, from facilities to just personnel, like up and down, it's run at a first class, right? What was your biggest takeaway from Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, just the talent, the amount of talent in the walls of Columbus was amazing. They do, I mean, the scouting they do, they're really professional in their approach, and have a really, they're organized in where they want to go. And you could see that was clear through the leadership of Tim Beschenko. He did an amazing job, Corey Ray, of building a game model, but also talent projections and how they were going to sort of transform into the first team. And so it was really fun to work and to see that style of which they wanted to play, which is very different than Dallas. So I got to kind of compare and contrast two game models that had great things about both of them, and I got to. I mean, I felt like I was on a crash course of education, and just the getting to coach Darlington Nagbe, Steven Moreira, Cucho Hernandez, Lucas Silvery, and these top talents that, I mean, you watch on TV and you marvel at. So I got to see like the fine nuances of these players and how they prepare themselves, their mentalities for the game, their personalities, how they take on information. I got to study the top players in the league for a year, and it was truly, I say it all the time, that since I didn't know how much I grew until getting outside the walls.
During your time here, you did have a hand in developing some pretty top talent, U.S. men's national team talent. Are there any players on the current roster, first team or throughout the FC Dallas system, that really jump out to you right now?
I mean, the Paul Ariolas, the Peter Musas, the Alan Velasco's, young ones, Nolan Norris, Tyreek. I mean, there's some really big projections out there, and I haven't gotten around the academy yet, but that's my next goal, is to really kind of dive in and see where all of the top projections lie, and create a plan for these guys, and how I'm gonna get them to where they need to go. And it's not just my plan; it's our plan.
Yeah.
With Sandro and André. That's what I love about this organization, is the collaboration that happens, and the respect that we all have for that collaboration process is why I think we turn out the players we turn out, because it's really all hands on deck, truly caring about making these projections come to life.
I know you haven't shared too many plans yet, but anything specific in mind for Musa and Farrington, and the fact that they are giant bodies out there that you could potentially utilize together?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've started to think, like, can you play them both together, and what that looks like, and so a lot of ideas are flooding through the mind, and I want to, again, Logan's a top player that is earning more and more minutes, and he's being pushed by a guy that's played at a high level. So I have, you got a mentor and an up and comer that I feel blessed to have, and one that I want both scoring lots of goals for Dallas. And so that's my job in this off season and into preseason, is to try to figure out what works the best, what's fluid, and what I foresee to be the best way forward formation wise, to making sure that all those top talents are getting on the field.
All right, last one. It's a little bit off the soccer path,
Okay.
kind of. I understand your wife was Was she a professional player? U.S. Women's National Team player? Obviously been with you throughout this entire journey. Now she gets to come back home as well. I understand she's a bit of a competitive person. Can you talk us through your first ever ping pong match with her? And then can you talk us through what she's meant to you in helping you get back home?
Yes, so for my birthday, it's got to be like 5 years ago, she got me a ping pong table. We were living in Houston just before we moved here. And the first day we had it, and the kids were all asleep, and it was like one of the biggest fights we've had in our marriage was playing a ping pong game. And it was like it went to like, 28, 27, like it was getting up there in points, and we're sweating. And we're getting annoyed. She likes to talk a lot, you know what, and so that gets under my skin. I think that's exactly who she was as a player. And it just became, I don't think we talked to each other for like 2 days. I think I don't want to say that we didn't say bad things to each other, but neither one of us was proud of our behavior. Let's just say that.
Who won?
I won.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay. How do we resolve the fight?
Well, we haven't played ping pong since, so now we play doubles ping pong. So it's her and I are teammates. So we invite people over to play doubles ping pong. We haven't lost.
That is marriage, all right?
Yes.
That's overcoming your
And so our little tiffs are when she misses a shot, I'm like, come on, like be better than that. Like, you're better than that.
I would kill you.
And so that's how we keep the marriage. We both love ping pong, but we won't play each other. We'll be teammates, and that we'll leave it at that. But yeah.
Teammates in life. Just what she's meant to bring you back.
Oh my God. So literally, what she's had to. We've got 4 kids really young, especially when we took off to Columbus, and no family there. And she has to keep our spirits alive, put all the kids in schools, make arrangements, just all the logistics, and then find her own outlets for her life and friendships, and that's not easy. And then have to only be there 10 months, and then have to go to New Mexico. And she's just truly remarkable in how she can adapt, and she's an adventure seeker. She asked me when we got married. She's like, "I'll marry you as long as our life is an adventure." And I said, I don't think she quite knew what kind of adventure we were going to be on. But we were on an adventure, and I couldn't be on a better adventurous path with anybody else. And she's the rock, she's the glue. And I owe a lot to her and me getting this position, because she's been with me and gambled. We gambled on ourselves to get to this point. And she's my partner, she's my, and we just have a blast together.
I'm glad you could bring her back home.
Yes, me too.
Thank you so much for the time.
Not only did we get to talk with Eric Quill, we also sat down with Chief Soccer Officer André Zanotta to talk about why Eric Quill was the right man for the job.
André, just want to start with the fact that Eric Quill has some experience and background here at this club. Dan talked about there being hundreds of candidates. How much of a front runner was Eric from the get-go, given his ties here?
So the moment we started the head coach search process, we knew Eric was going to be in that process, and he was going to be a front runner, and because we know him, we know the person, and it's really important for us when knowing we're going to work every day, and through the good and bad moments, it's important to have someone that the character that so Eric was one of the top guys that we had in mind since the beginning, but we wanted to go through the search and get to know the market, get to know other candidates, and then when we spoke with Eric, and I did the first phase of the interviews, I did with Sandro, our technical director, and Sandro didn't know Eric. So when we did the meeting with Sandro's, just for them to talk more than me and Eric, and explaining the things that changed also in the club after he left. But then even for Sandro, it was clear that he needs to be one of the finalists. Eric is a guy that really feel he's the identity FC Dallas. Eric is there is a very good combination there, and then when I went to tell the Hunts about the process and the finalists, they also felt strong that Eric should be one of the finalists.
My understanding was that, and he even said it, you know, one of the hardest decisions I had to make was to leave, but I did it so that I could come back. And I understood that MLS experience was important when considering an MLS head coaching candidate here. Why did you feel like just one season with Columbus and then the years in Albuquerque were enough? Like, why was now the right time to bring him back?
So it's not that we felt it was enough, but Eric was a finalist in the previous processes. So we already felt he was close enough at that moment to be the head coach of FC Dallas. But I think he, and as I mentioned in the press conference, after he left and having been in a different culture, different MLS club, dealing with high-profile players, high-ego players in Columbus really helped how you manage those kind of players, because he was used to deal with young players and develop them. And when you have to deal with those players that he mentioned in Columbus, it's different. It's different. And they didn't have a good season there. So this tests a lot the coaching staff. And then from Columbus going to New Mexico, a club that never had a home playoff game, and they finished first. So getting a team that was not expected to do what they did and how well they did. So we really felt that Eric, everything that he had after leaving us would help his growth and being more ready for the role that he's taking now. So for us I think was very important that he had went through this process, and now we feel that we already was almost convinced enough to hire him before, but now we felt this is the time for him.
How much do you want him to pull from your second team, your academies, the development side of this organization, versus using, like Dan said, some of those big star players?
So it's always important for us. It's expected from FC Dallas to promote players to the first team. So after a very successful season that you watched close for North Texas, and Eric knows this process really well. He was a second team coach, knows how to get the academy players to the second team to the first team. So here every year we want to promote players. We want to have players in the first team. So this season, this 2025, we're going to have 5 or 6 players moving up to the first team, which is a great number. It's a very good number, and we want to more and more make that pathway stronger. And Eric being part of that process before and coming now as in the top tier of this process, he understands well what it takes for the players and to help the coaching staff in the second team to develop the players and make them ready to the first team. So we're going to continue what we've been doing, and I think things will be even smoother with Eric.
Last one, when you were able to actually give him the news, once you guys had decided he was going to be the guy, what unfolded?
Clark gave him the news, so I wish I did, but Clark was the one that called him and told Eric. But I spoke with him immediately after, and I always knew how much Eric, every time I spoke with him, he always said, Dallas, head coach at FC Dallas is my dream job, So, and we kept in touch during this time. Eric and I, we have this kind of weird, in North Texas, we always used to speak near 10 p.m. It was almost every night we would catch up after kids went to bed, and then we spoke. and I said, hey, we're now back to speaking our late time of the evenings. We're gonna, before going to bed, we're just checking on Eric.
Call my work wife.
And so he was super excited. I knew how much he wanted this, how much he wanted to come back to Dallas, and we're super excited to have him. Players are excited, and we can't wait to have the 2025 season start.
That makes all of us. Thank you so much, Andre. I
you.
appreciate the time.